Refresh the live feed. All right. That's the monitor. All right, guys. Let's see if this works. We're good? You can hear me now. Thanks, Ian. Hopefully everybody else will slowly log back in. We had to switch microphones. Not sure what happened. I was using the same one that Mrs. Ward was using just a few minutes before me. And anyways, it decided not to work any longer. Perfect. Really happy to hear you guys can hear and see me. If we could reset everything and just start all over again, could you give me a green check mark in Blackboard if you can see and hear me? That's why we do this green check stuff for you guys and for me and everyone. And once we're all kind of together in there, wow, look at those check marks come in. Once we get sorted, everyone kind of on the right page, get everyone refreshed, and on the new live feed, we will get started. Don't have a ton of stuff to go through today. Just want to kind of maybe fire up your math brains again, get you guys kind of looking at some stuff you saw last year. Regardless of where you were, Math9 kind of highlights stuff that you'll use again this year. And then kind of leave it at that for this week. A couple more people missing green checks. I think Jenna said she could hear me in chat, but I don't see that anymore. Okay, she said. So Jenna, if you can hear me, give me a green check. And who else? Jonah? Yeah. All right. That's looking good, guys. Thank you for that. Obviously, we're going to iron out the kinks, and as the course goes on, we won't run into problems anymore. But it happens. Technology, hey? So today I just want to kind of go over some Math9 stuff. And this will be sort of the first math we look at. Give you guys a bit of an indication of what math's going to look like with me. And then it kind of allows me to see where you guys are at in terms of your math from last year. Obviously, not everyone got 100% in Math 9. So it's kind of gives me an idea of where you're at. And then we can talk about course selections again. Did everyone have a chance to talk about picking the right course? Hopefully you did. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to jump into the course. So I think everyone's registered in Math 10. I know this morning, I think it was Josh, I didn't have you in, but I added you. So hopefully you're able to access this now. This is where we kind of left off last day. So the first thing you'll notice in here, I'm going to just switch my view so it doesn't look as busy. I'm going to go to my student view so it'll look the same as what you guys can see. There you go. So the introduction unit, this is all there is right now. We uploaded the video from last day. So on Monday, we had just a brief little introduction to math where we had some technical difficulties getting you guys in, and then I talked about the 2 different math courses and calculators and things like that. So if you weren't here on Monday's class, or there's something that that I mentioned that you might want to go back and look at, there it is. So the video's there, just press play and it'll run through the video. Obviously you guys know how to use YouTube, so there you go. And that's kind of what this will look like. I'll put the videos in kind of where they fall. Some days I'll go through maybe 1 section, maybe I'll go through 2. So I'll try to give the video a title that's similar to the sections that we went through. So that was just an introduction. We didn't really talk about anything. And then I asked you guys to download and print these 3 sheets. So the Grade 9 Algebra Review Notes, which we're going to do today, the BEDMAS Review, so Order of Operations Review, and then the Fractions Review. So did everybody have an opportunity to print that? If you didn't print it, it's not the end of the world. Just the things that I go through today, you'll have to just jot down on a separate piece of paper. And that's kind of my expectation. When I am going through problems, it's important that you guys, Jenny, you're not supposed to just finish it. It's important that you guys go through it with me. The analogy I kind of like to use is like a basketball player. I would use Michael Jordan, but you guys didn't even get to watch Michael Jordan play because he probably retired before you guys were born. But anyways, let's go with LeBron James. I can watch LeBron James play basketball all day, all night. I will never be as good as LeBron James by just watching him. That's just the reality. And the same goes for math. If you are going to sit there and watch me, now maybe my analogy falls a bit short because I am by no means the LeBron James of math, but I'm pretty good at grade 10 math. So if you watch me do questions, it's not going to make you any better. You have to practice. If I want to get better at basketball, I'm going to have to go shoot some hoops, practice. Okay, Ian, I'll get you in. I'll get you in right now. So you got to try this stuff. You got to practice yourself. You got to figure out where you need to improve, and you need to figure out what you're good at. Those are really important things. I could probably just get you in right now, Ian. Let's see if I can enroll you right now. Sorry, I gotta drop down to my keyboard. Ian, look at your avatar. It's nice. I like that. All right, Ian, if you are in Moodle, you just press refresh. You should be able to see the Math10 course under your courses. Just if you go back to the main Moodle page, it should show up there now, and you can go in. Anybody else? Perfect. Good. Is anyone else having issues seeing that? We get kind of lists, and Mrs. Wood updates them, and sometimes students kind of get lost along the way. So hopefully everyone's in now. All right. A few of you are typing, which is good. I'll let you guys ask questions. If anything comes up along the way, what needs to be printed out? Good question. Today we're going to go through grade 9 algebra review notes. You don't have to submit it, but we're going to go through that together right now. And then the other two documents are the bedmass review and the fractions review. Some people have issues with Word. I know not everyone has Word on their home computer, so what I've done is I've uploaded it in Word and then I've converted it to PDF. So just about everybody has some sort of PDF viewer on their computer. If you're having issues with Word, you can use a program called OpenOffice. I think it's openoffice.org, and that is something you can just download online. And it's free word processing, free Excel, free Office suite, essentially. And additionally, you can use Google Documents. So if you have a Gmail account, you can just sign up for one for free. You can open Word documents in Gmail to view them. Sometimes the formatting gets a bit wonky, so that's why PDF's good. So these are actually just two documents, but I have a PDF version as well as a Word version, just so you can pick whatever one you like. So there you go. If you go grade 9 algebra review notes, it's just going to download it right to your computer. If you click on the PDF version, it just opens it like that, and then you can just click print. Just depends on what your version of Adobe looks like. So I use a program called OneNote, and that lets me use my little pen to write on the screen. And I'm going to go through these questions, and it would be great if you guys could follow along. I'll give you guys time to do them kind of as we go. If I go too fast, which I always do, just say, hey, Mr. Borden, do you mind slowing down a bit? I try to take it really slow at the beginning, but I get just so excited and I just want to do math, so I kind of fly along a lot of times. I always bring my calculator to class, and I recommend you guys do as well. Like I said last day, you guys probably all carry a phone that has a calculator in it, but a huge part of math is using your calculator and learning how to use your calculator. And there's absolutely no shame in using your calculator. If you are weak with your multiplication and division, adding, subtracting, use a calculator. It doesn't matter. No one's going to question it. It's a math course. You're allowed to. So use the tools that are available to you. All right, I'm going to jump in here and do a few of these, and some of you have already looked at these and probably done them already, which is fine, so you can just kind of check your answers as we go. If I make a mistake, which I very rarely do, but sometimes do, just type something into chat like, Mr. Borden, that was the wrong answer. I got 7. And then I can go back and look at it. And I haven't done math for a while now, so my math brain is kind of a little bit weak, but we'll see how we do here. So the first question asks you to name the variable. So we're just kind of looking at variables, just kind of trying to remember what they are. Now, the review that we're going to do today isn't all of Math 9, it's just kind of the algebra stuff. And when you go from Math 9 to 10, a lot of the topics you covered in Math 9 get kind of transferred into Math 10, and algebra is kind of a big part of that. Costin, do you maybe have the different sheet up? Because there was the other 2 sheets as well. There was the bedmass review and the fractions review. Let's see what the bedmass review looks like. So Foundations in Pre-Calculus review number 1. That's not one we're doing yet. So maybe you open that one instead. And then there's the fractions review, which is, well, just a bunch of fractions. So if you have review number 2 open, we're not looking at either one of those. If you can go back to this grade 9 algebra review, the PDF one, Costin, open that one up. Algebra review for Math 9. There we be. No, I don't know what that means. No. Sometimes when I give you guys a Word document, if you download the Word document, even with some of the learning guides, which we'll get into next day, the formatting kind of gets wonky, and just depending on what sort of version of Word you have and things like that, because the equations that we use in math, we input them into the computer. Depending on what your computer is reading, it might look a little bit different. So I know last year we ran into lots of problems with kind of formatting. That's why I tried to convert just about everything I could into PDF, because that way everybody has the same formatting. And if you do run into problems where yours kind of maybe looks a little bit different, you can just ask, and you'll probably find that other students are running into the same problem because the same version of Word and things like that. All right, so variables. Variables, if you recall from grade 9, maybe even grade 8, I forget when you first learned them, they are essentially holding the place of a number. So we can put, any number we want in. Sometimes we can solve and figure out what number is supposed to be there if we have an equation. So variable is just a letter. A lot of times mathematicians will use the letter X, but we can use any letter we want. And even sometimes we run out of letters from our alphabet, we'll use Greek letters, especially in science. Greek letters have a lot of meaning. So in this first little equation here, looking at this guy, you can see that the variable is the letter A. So we're going to start very easy right now. So the letter A is the variable in that, it's not an equation, but it's in that statement. The second one down below, it's kind of chopped off a little bit, and it's the letter T, I believe. And I draw my T's a little bit funny like that in math, because if I draw a T like this, it kind of looks like a plus sign, which looks like this. So I draw my T's with a little bottom on them. That way I never get confused between plus signs and T's. A really good habit to get into if you ever want to go any further in math and science. Something to think about. All right, the third one, the letter is G, the variable, and then this last one, the variable is H. Even though it has the negative sign out front, we're just interested in the variable for now, so we just put a little H in there. All right, easy peasy start. The second question here, I guess letter E, because why wouldn't you go from A to E in terms of logical progression of letters? We're going to evaluate. So we're given some values for the variables, and we need to substitute them into the equation and then solve using which will turn out to be bedmass sort of ideas. So what I'm going to do is we have x equals 2, we have y equals negative 3, and we have z is 4. I'll try to color code things just so you kind of know where everything's coming from. And if you do run into problems, just type something into chat and I can go back and look at it. So in this first equation, pretty basic to start, it asks us to substitute everywhere there's an x, we want to put in the number 2. And then everywhere there's a y, we want to put in negative 3. And everywhere there's a z, we want to put in the 4. So let's do that. It's important to remember that we have negative signs and positive signs, and we need to carry those along. And if my writing gets messy and you can't understand something, just ask in chat and I can go back and fix it up. I'll try to take my time, but like I said, I kind of rush sometimes. All right, so now we have just some basic addition of integers. So 2 plus negative 3. Let's do it in 2 steps. Why not, hey? 2 plus negative 3 gives me negative 1. And then this kind of 4 is just tagging along on the back. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. So there you go. Let's try to repeat that for this next one. And obviously we have multiplication happening here, so we want to keep everything in brackets just so we don't get too confused. So anywhere there's an x, we're going to put in that 2. Anywhere there's a y, we're going to put in negative 3. And everywhere there's a z, we're going to put in a 4. And it turns out that the order of multiplication doesn't matter. I can go 4 times negative 3 times 2. I can go 2 times negative 3 times 4. I can go negative 3 times 2 times 4. That's one of the really interesting things about math. Multiplication order doesn't matter. Let's just fly right through this. 2 times 3 is going to give me 6 because it's negative 6. And then times 4 is 24. All right. How about you guys do this one for me? Some of you have maybe already done it because I'm going slow. When you get an answer, you just want to throw it into chat and we'll see what everyone got. Number 6 is kind of a bit tricky because we need to remember order of operations, BEDMAS type stuff. So maybe I'll just write that BEDMAS down right here. BEDMAS. So remember to do your brackets, exponents, division, multiplication. Oh, see, I told you I was going to make a mistake first day. Negative 24 because we had the negative 3 in there. Thank you, Eric, keeping me on my toes. All right, for 6, one I circled. Once you get an answer, just throw it in chat. Don't be afraid to be wrong. I am often wrong. And the answer keys that we'll use are often wrong as well. It is okay to be wrong. 10, question mark. No question mark leads. Be confident in your answer. 10, exclamation mark. Yes, that's what I like to see. You got to be confident in what you're doing. Leeds is the only one who can manage to calculate that little question there. Everybody else still sleeping. Don't know how to do it. Not sure. Let's see if Leeds is right. The brave one. X. X is 2. So I'm going to put a 2 where the X was. Then I had a little plus sign here. And then I had the 2 that was in there. I'm just going to drop it down. And then I had a 4. Oh, we got 100% guarantee. Money back guarantee there, Jesse. 2 plus 2 times 4. So order of operations tells me I need to do my multiplication first. So I'm going to do this calculation first, and then I'm going to go 2 plus whatever that ends up being, and in this case, it's 8. 2 plus 8 gives me 10, and Jesse's money back guarantee holds true. Thank you guys for that. We'll do 8 here, and then we'll see what the next question has in store for us. First one's 2, and then we have a y, which is -3. I don't want to mix up my negatives with my minus signs, so I'm going to be very careful here, and I'm going to put -4. I'm going to follow BEDMAS again, which tells me I need to do my multiplication first, so I'm going to have to do this left side before I can do my subtraction. And this time, Eric, I'm going to try to get this 2 times -3 thing right, and that's going to give me -6 minus 4. So when I deal with negative integers, I kind of like to think about a temperature scale. It just helps me think of things. So if it's -6 degrees outside and it gets 4 degrees colder, you go down by 4. -6 minus 4 should take us to -10. Everyone happy with that? Not sure I could handle it if I made 2 mistakes in the first class. So I'm going to be very cautious from here out. The next question asks us to simplify. Is there a chance anyone remembers what simplify kind of means? Thank you, Leeds. In terms of simplifying math questions, is there another way we can state simplify to kind of jog our minds? Does anybody remember what simplify means, or what we should do, or just how to solve this problem? It doesn't ask us to solve, it doesn't ask us to evaluate, it asks us to simplify. So we're not dealing with an equation where we're going to end up with a number for an answer. We're going to simplify. Not seeing anyone firing anything into chat here, so simplifying. Another way to talk about simplifying is combining like terms. So if I had 9 apples, then I had another 6 apples, then I had 2 apples, how many apples do I have? That's kind of the way we want to think about this. But instead of apples, we have the letter P, which isn't nearly as fun as apples, but it is what it is. So when we are asked to simplify, we need to combine any things that are similar together. So in this case, saying you have 9 of these letter P's, and then you got to take away 6, then you're going to add 2. So if I had 9, I took away 6, I would have 3 P's left, and then I just bring this 2P along for the ride. I had 3 P's and I add another 2 to them. In total, I have 5 P's. Or if you want to think about it in terms of puppies. You had 9 puppies, you sold 6, and then 2 people returned their puppies. How many puppies do you have left? You should have 5 puppies. I don't know why you would return a puppy. 2 people did. All right, let's keep going with this. The next question has the same letter again. So you have -4 H's, and then you take away 2, and then you add 3. So if I had -4, I took away 2, I'm going to have -6 H's, and then I'm going to add 3 to that. So -6 gets 3 degrees warmer, 6, so we ended up with -3 H's. All right, so hopefully this is refreshing some of your memories. Things get a little bit interesting here now. We have the same type of question, but now we have 2 different letters. So not only do we have X's, we have a Y. Can we combine X's and Y's together? What do we think? Yes, no, in chat. Help me out. I've forgotten. early onset Alzheimer's. Can we combine letters that are different? Can I say I have 5 X's and 2 Y's, that gives me 6 of whatever that is? Leeds says no. Does anyone agree or disagree with Leeds? No. All right. We agree. Tiana is reiterating the no. So it looks like we're kind of in a consensus here that we can't combine our letters together. And the way I kind of like to think about it would be like you had 5 apples and then you had 2 sports cars. Can you combine those together? No. They're different things, so it's not like you have 7. There is, Jonah, an XY, and we'll definitely run into that. Even up above, we had some examples where we had, like this guy right here in 7, we had X, Y, and then a Z. So we did have multiplication happening there, so that is possible. What makes this situation in 7 different from down here is in 7, we had multiplication between these letters, and now in number 11 down here, we're adding. So you are right that we can multiply those variables together, and that's going to be a sort of a common place where students will make mistakes, is trying to multiply those, but we're adding. So we don't want to combine our variables when we're adding. All right, so what we want to do is kind of identify what variables we have. Looks like we have some x's here. We have a few more x's here. And then the y and the -1, they don't have any friends. They're just kind of by themselves. So we don't want to combine those with anything else. They're just going to come along for the ride. So if I have 5 groups of x and then another 3 groups of x, together I have 8 groups of x. And then I'm going to add on this 2y and the -1. They're just going to drop down for fun. I can't combine those with anything else. All right, I'm going to do 13 and I'm going to leave... Well, that's weird. 12's down below. All right, I'll do 12 and I'll leave 13 and 14 for you. So we're going to go down here. Usually we go across. All right, so we've established that when we combine like terms, we have to pick things that are similar. So I have a P there. I have some more P's over here. What else do I have? I have a Q and another Q here. And then I have some R's, and then this +1's just kind of hanging out at the end. So we're going to just drop that down. So I'm going to try to stay color coordinated for you guys. I have -1p. Remember, if I have something like this, that means there's a -1 in front of it, but the 1 just gets dropped for simplicity. So I have -p, and then I'm going to add 3 to it. So that's going to give me 2 groups of p. I have 5 q's, and then I'm going to take 1 away. So it's going to give me 4 groups of q. I have -8 r's, then I'm going to add 9 to it. So that's going to give me 1 r, or just r. And I do not believe I've missed anything other than this 1 at the end, which had no friends. So I'm just going to add it on to the back there. All right, are we happy with that? If I made a mistake, is that looking good? I feel good about that. All right, I want you guys to, if you haven't, try 13 and 14. When you get an answer, thank you, Jenna. When you get an answer for 13 and you're brave, you're feeling good about it, you can throw it in chat and then we'll see how we did. So if you want to throw it into chat right now and you've already done it, then that would be good. If you want to just kind of wait for a brave soul to put their answer in and then just agree with them, or just write whatever they write just to make yourself feel better about putting something in, you can. I won't know if you got the answer if you're just repeating what somebody else said. All right, so 13, 14. Y plus R. All right, Costin, good question. We are dealing with the R's here, and I'm finding kind of groups of R. Get rid of that. So I had negative 8 R's here, and then I had 9 over here. So if I have negative 8 plus 9, that leaves me with 1. So instead of putting 1R, I just dropped the 1 and left it out. You can put it in there. Eric, I'm going to compliment you on your formatting of that. That looks terrific. 6p plus 1s minus 2. Sometimes when we start doing things in math, like with exponents and whatnot, it's kind of hard to type it into the little chat box. It takes a while, so I'll try to make it as simple as I can. And if you can throw something in chat that kind of looks like what we're trying to get to, and I can kind of decode it, then that's fine. You don't have to spend a lot of time, trying to communicate what's going on. It is a bit of work trying to type out some of these equations as they get more complex. So it seems like everyone's in agreement with 13. Let's see if I can get the same answer as you guys. All right, so groups here, we have P's, S's, and then we have this 2 hanging out by itself. So I have 4 groups of P and then another 2 groups of P, which gives me 6 groups of P. And then negative 3 S's plus 4 gives me positive 1 S, or just S. And then the negative 2 just kind of comes along for the ride. And that is the same answer as you guys, so I'm feeling good about that. Hopefully you are as well. My head is in the way for 14. Let me get out of the way. There we go. So 14 is down below. If you haven't done it, we can do it. So we're going to combine like terms. That's what's happening here when we are simplifying. I see that I have a negative 10 and a negative 11 in this question, so I have numbers to try to combine together. I have negative A. That's the only one of its kind. Nope, there's an 8 over here, A. I have 6 groups of C, 9 groups of C, and then I have this negative D here at the end just kind of hanging out by itself. No friends. That's sad. All right, so negative 10 and negative 11 together, that gives me negative 21. I have negative A plus 8A, so that's going to give me 7 groups of A. 6 C's, and then I'm going to take away 9, so negative 3 groups of C, and then negative D kind of hanging around by itself there. So I'm just taking a quick look in the chat, and it looks like we are all in agreement with that one. That's good. Feeling better about this. My math kind of coming back to me. All right. Leave that up there at the top for a second. So the next part of the sheet here kind of gets into order of operations type questions. So really focusing on bed mass. Is there anyone who doesn't remember what bed mass stands for? By no means do you have to have that memorized. Hopefully you recall. You've probably dealt with it for the last couple of years. It's called the order of operations. We put in a little mnemonic here to remember what it is. I can write it down if you want. If you think you remember, then we don't have to write it down, but I always like to see it there on the top of my page just to kind of refresh my memory. So when we solve equations involving variables and numbers, you're going to see an equal sign, and if you want to do something to the equation, whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. It's equal. One side's the same as the other. So if I add 7 to one side, I have to add 7 to both sides. I can't just do it to one side because then it's no longer equal. So just refreshing your memory. Eric, you did it for me. Perfect. So refreshing your memory, when we do anything with equations, we want to make sure we are always doing the opposite. So if I'm adding something on one side, I want it to go to the other side, I'm going to have to subtract. So that's what this kind of first question here at the top of the page, 15, 16, 17, and 18 are implying. What is the opposite of adding? If I am adding something and I want to do the opposite, I'm going to subtract. And the opposite of subtracting is adding. Then I have multiplying and dividing. If I am multiplying on one side, I want to do the opposite. I'm going to divide. And if I have the opposite of dividing, I'm going to multiply. All right, so number 19 here, we have an equation. X plus 2 is 5. We want to figure out what x is. Now, this question's obviously fairly straightforward. You can just look at it and think, what do I have to add to 2 to get 5? And it just jumps into your head, it's going to be 3. But it is really, really, really important, because these questions are going to get more difficult. It's important that you show your steps along the way, so I can follow you and others can follow your work. Now, I know it seems like it's just completely obvious, and it is in this first example, but it's important that you show your steps. Now, when you guys submit work to me, if you haven't shown your work, I can't really give you credit for something. I'm going to give you all of the answers for everything we do throughout the year. We're going to do worksheets. I'll give you the answers. Once you do your tests, once you've finished your test, you've submitted it, I'm going to give you the answers. So the answer isn't really that important. I taught a lot of courses. When I teach Physics 11, I tell my students at the beginning of the year, if you get every answer correct for the entire year on every test and every quiz and every worksheet, you will fail the course if you don't show your work. Because answers often on longer questions are only worth 1 mark. The steps along the way are going to be worth 2 or 4 marks, depending on how long it is. So if it's a 3 sort of step problem, you just do the answer, and I'm looking for 2 other steps along the way. Well, you got 1 out of 3. You got the answer right, but I haven't seen your steps, so I can't give you full credit. So you can still get everything right and fail. What I'm trying to say to you guys is the answer is, it's important, but it's not the be-all, end-all. If you can show me that you kind of know what you're doing along the way, and you maybe make a math error, a sign error, but you've done the correct steps, you can still get 2 out of 3 on a question, things like that. With some of the tests you do online, it's a bit tricky because the computer's marking it, but when I actually see your work and you do written for me, that's kind of the way it works. So that was a really, really long-winded way of me saying, you must show your work. Please don't make me ask you to show your work. And even for really simple questions like this. So how do exams work? We'll talk about it more along the way, but it's a good question, Ian. So when you guys do exams, you're going to do them on Moodle at home. So for like a chapter, we'll have something called the learning guide, which is kind of like the questions you do out of a textbook. But we don't have a textbook, so you just print them off. So once you've submitted your learning guide, I go through it and make sure you know what you're doing, you haven't made any foolish errors, everything looks good. Once I've marked your learning guide, I'm going to send to your parents a password to access the test. Now, once you get that password, your parents at home are going to supervise you while you do your test. And once you're done your test, the computer is just going to mark it. Now, I haven't confirmed this with Mrs. Wood and Ward, but generally speaking, we'll bring you guys in to write 2 tests along the way. So usually at the end of the first term, you'll come in to write a test, either at Hollywood Road or Central. And then at the end of the year, you have a final exam where you'll come in to write a test with us as well. So 90% of your work will be done at home. You'll come in and write 2 tests along the way. We'll talk about it more later, but for now, let's just get through a few of these questions, and then I'll leave you guys for the day. So we always want to do the opposite. If I'm adding 2 on the left side of the equal sign here for number 19, I want to do the opposite. I want to subtract 2. So I want to get x by itself. If I do it to one side, I must do it to the other side. So anytime we have a question that says solve, you're trying to get the variable by itself. So in this case, x, I have -2 and +2 gives me 0, and then 5 minus 2 is 3. So just by looking at that question, you probably figured that one out. And 21's pretty similar, but I'm going to not go to 20 right away. I just like going across the page. So that's how we're going to do it. I am subtracting 4 here on this side. I want to get m by itself. So I want to move everything away from the m. That's going to leave me at the very end of this question with m equals. So the opposite of subtracting 4 is adding 4. And if I do it to one side of my equal sign, I have to do it to the other side. So I end up with m is 6. Whew, look at that. 24 is already done for us. A little bonus there. All right, I want you guys to do 20. I'm going to do 22 while you do 20. So when you've done 20, just throw your answer into chat. We'll see if everybody's on the same page. And I'm going to do 22 while you guys do 20, just so you have an answer. I just want to make sure we finish at about just a little bit before 11:30 here, so I'm not keeping you guys too long. $20 might be a bit tricky because that 4 out front doesn't have a sign. Normally, we end up with, Eric, you're even showing your steps in chat. That's way too ambitious, Eric. I appreciate it, but it's too ambitious. So if you just put in an answer, if we get the answer wrong as a class, then we can go back and figure out why. But if you just put the answer for now, we'll figure out what's going on from there. So there is an imaginary plus sign out here. It's just implied. If I don't have anything, we just assume it to be positive. If it has a negative, then it's a negative. I am adding 4. The opposite of adding 4 is subtracting 4. I do that to both sides of my little equal sign, and I end up with n. So this goes away. Positive n is equal to 7 minus 4 is 3. All right, so I did the next one for us. I did the opposite of subtracting 2, which was adding 2, and then 4 plus 2 is 6. I have a feeling a lot of you guys are sitting in your houses right now, a little bit bored, and I just wanted to start slowly. So now we're multiplying, dividing. Things look a little bit different, no plus signs. Similar process though. If we're multiplying, we want to get to the other side, we're going to divide. If we want to get a division to the other side, we're going to multiply. So in this question, I'm multiplying this 4 and x together. The opposite of multiplication, we decided at the top of the page, was going to be division. And if you remember why division works, over here I have 4 divided by 4. And if I divide anything by itself, I end up with 1. And in math, we don't even write the ones. I don't have to write 1x. Because mathematicians, generally speaking, are quite lazy, looking for shortcuts. 8 divided by 4, it's going to go in there twice. I'm going to leave 26, but I'm going to do 25. So let's do 25. I'll do a couple from the letter M at the bottom, and then I'll talk about what I'd like you guys to do for homework. Letter L, number 25, a little bit different. Instead of just multiplying by 2, I'm multiplying by negative 2. And the same rule applies. If I want to get rid of that negative sign, I don't want to end up with negative m over here. That's not what I'm looking for. I want m by itself, just m. So if I want to end up with just m, I need to divide negative 2 by negative 2. If I want negative 2 divided by positive 2, that ends up with negative 1, which is not what I'm looking for here. I want to end up with a positive 1, because 1 times m is just going to give me m. And I know you guys probably have figured that out, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Now, if I do it on one side, I have to do it on the other, because it's an equation. End up with m, 30 divided by 2, negative 15. That guy's going to be 10. There we go. Let's do 27, then we'll do 30, and then I will talk about what you guys should do for Friday. Now for 27, I'm dividing x by 2. And we said at the top of the page, the opposite of division is multiplication. So if I want to do the opposite of dividing by 2, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And what happens on the left side here is I have a 2 on the top and a 2 on the bottom, and that leaves me with 1 times x, or just x. And on the right, I have 4 times 2, which gives me 8. Now, I must admit that 29 and 28 are both quite similar, but 30 is kind of like going to hit you right out of left field. Because I end up with this negative 8 minus x over 2. Everything's been really easy. Now it all of a sudden just went to level 10. So there's many, many different ways to do this. No way is more correct than the other. The way I choose to do it doesn't necessarily need to be the way you choose to do it. So what I need to do is I need to get this x by itself. But before I can do that, I have to deal with this 8 that's out front. So what I'm going to do as a first step is get the 8 to the other side. And in order to do that, I'm going to do the opposite. So right now it is plus 8. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So positive 8 minus 8. Now it's really important we keep the negative sign here with this x. And then I have 6 minus 8, it's going to give me negative 2. This is where things get a bit interesting. There's lots of different ways to approach this now. And the way I'm going to choose to deal with it is I don't like that negative sign on the left side. I don't like the negative x over 2. So in order to get rid of the negative, I'm going to do the opposite. Which seems kind of weird because you have that negative, what is doing the opposite of negative x? Well, really that negative 1 is being multiplied by the x, so I could divide both sides by negative 1. But there's an even kind of simpler way to deal with this. If I take everything on this side and multiply it by negative 1, that's completely acceptable as long as I multiply both sides by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative x gives me positive x over 2. And then on the other side, negative 1 times negative 2 gives me positive 2. That makes everything a lot simpler, getting rid of that negative sign. And that's kind of a trick you might have seen before, or you might see me do a lot in this course, or this year I should say. is multiplying both sides of an equation by -1 to get rid of the negative signs. Just kind of a handy little way to deal with things. So I'm dividing that x by 2. The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying both sides by 2. So 2 divided by 2 goes away. I'm left with x. 2 times 2 is 4. Now that's a bit of a tricky question. I would imagine even for grade 9 that's probably about as tricky as they're going to come. It turns out I could have done these 2 steps together. If you were really on the ball, you've probably seen that coming. But I didn't. I did it in 2 steps. So there you go. There are a few questions here at the bottom, just order of operations stuff, kind of similar to what we just did. But I want to make sure I don't keep you guys too long today. So what we're going to do is this. There are 2 review sheets that are in the course. So review number 1, it's the BEDMAS review, and then review number 2 is the fractions review. Now, it is a lot of questions, so I don't want you guys to do them all. So for the first review here, Foundations of Pre-Calculus review number 1, what I would like you guys to do is, let's just get rid of this last column on the first page. I mean, these questions aren't going to take you very long, but I don't want to drown you guys in work on your first week of math. So don't worry about this last column of questions on the first page of review number 1. Just don't do them. If you want to do them, if you've already done them, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So that'll speed things up a bit. The second page of review number 1, let's do the same thing here. Let's get rid of this last column. So that kind of simplifies that a little bit. So that's question 2. Don't worry about the I questions. Just get rid of those. And then review number 2, this is the fractions review. This is all pretty straightforward stuff, pretty quick. I don't think I'm going to knock anything off this. These won't take you that long at all. Realistically speaking, you maybe have like 20 to 30 minutes of work here. It looks like 4 pages, but it's really not. So, I mean, it takes you as long as it takes you, but I don't foresee it taking a long time. All right, so you're sitting at home, you're thinking, Mr. Borden, I've done my 2 review sheets. I didn't do the last columns of the first page. I need to get these to you. Now, last day I talked about uploading files using an app. You can just take pictures of everything. If you have a scanner at home, you can use that. It doesn't really matter how you get things to me, but what will make me happy, and when I'm happy, you're happy, everybody's happy, is if you give those 2 sheets to me in one file. So you should end up with 4 sheets of paper, front and back, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to take pictures of them, first page, second page, third page, fourth page, put it all together in one document, like Cam Scanner will do that for you, create a PDF. And then you're going to go into the course. And I think I heard Mrs. Ward talking about this yesterday. How to submit files. So down here at the bottom of our first little unit in this math course, it says submit review work as one file. Due Friday, September 16th at 3:30. So you don't need to do it all today. You can maybe do a few questions today, a few questions tomorrow, a few questions on Friday. But when you go in here, I have 20 people right now, nobody's submitted anything. What you're going to do is you're going to see this. It says it's overdue by a year. That's unfortunate. But what you want to do is click on Add Submission. And then it's going to ask what file do you want to upload. So you're going to click the little plus. You're going to browse your computer. You're going to find it. This is it right here. It's not actually it, but this is your file. Oh, I guess it's going to be a PDF. So you click on it, click open, and you'll notice that the name appears here now. You upload this, and then finally save changes. And then when you go back now, instead of saying add submission, it says submitted for grading, and then your little file appears here. You can edit it, so you can go back and change it. Does anybody have any questions about what I want you guys to do for Friday, or how to upload assignments, or math, or what courses to pick, or anything at all? Does anybody have any questions? Anything that I said today that confused you, something that made you happy, anything at all? Is anybody out there still? It's just talking to myself. Well, there we go. Nobody really has any questions. It's 11:30, and I will respect your time. You all left. I often wonder if I'm just sitting here talking to myself. At least Mr. Ross is in here with me. Just me and Mr. Ross hanging out, doing some grade 10 math. I'm happy you liked it, Jenna, and Leeds, I'm happy you're here, as well as Costin, which is good. So that's kind of where we're at. For those of you who are like lost, that's fine. These worksheets, I just want you to submit them. I'm not going to mark them. I'm not going to take them in for marks. It's just kind of to get you guys back into the frame of mind of math, and so I can see where you're at. I'm going to send an email out, probably on Friday, and we'll make sure everybody's in the right math course for Monday. So I'll send an email to your parents. Make sure you have a conversation with them about the math courses, which one you think is going to be best for you and your situation. And we'll make those decisions on Friday. And then on Monday, we will get everyone into the class that everyone thinks is going to be the best fit. And then we'll start actually tackling some of the grade 10 material. So I'm going to leave you guys there. Thank you very much for participating, being here today. And I will see you guys. Hopefully I'll see you on Friday at the hike. I'm pretty sure I don't have to teach at KSS, so I'll be there. But if not, I'll see you online again on Monday. So have a great weekend if I don't see you, and we'll see you on Monday. Thanks.